Northern Europe's security landscape is defined by its geography. The Baltic Sea, the North Sea, and the approaches to the Arctic are not simply waterways. They are contested corridors where NATO's northern flank meets Russian naval power. In this environment, small countries like Norway and Denmark cannot afford large navies of aircraft carriers or destroyers. Instead, they must rely on frigates, vessels that balance size, cost, and multi-role capability to provide deterrence and to integrate with larger NATO fleets. Among them, two classes stand out as the most capable frigates of Northern Europe: Norway's Fridtjof Nansen-class and Denmark's Iver Huitfeldt-class. On the surface, both are frigates. In practice, they embody two very different philosophies. The Nansen-class emphasizes anti-submarine warfare, reflecting Norway's concern with Russian submarines in the Barents Sea. The Huitfeldt-class, by contrast, was designed to deliver robust air defense at a fraction of the cost of Western destroyers, reflecting Denmark's focus on area-air warfare and protecting sea lines of communication. To understand which is stronger, one must look at history, design, cost, and strategic employment. The Fridtjof Nansen class was born in the 1990s when Norway needed to replace its aging Oslo-class frigates. Norway's coastline stretches thousands of kilometers and sits adjacent to the bastions of Russia's northern fleet. Submarines armed with cruise missiles represent the most immediate threat to Norwegian and NATO security. The answer was a modern frigate, optimized for hunting submarines while still providing surface and limited air defense capability. Norway contracted Spain's Navantia shipyard to build 5 ships, which entered service between 2006 and 2011. Each displaces about 5,300 tons and is fitted with the Aegis combat system, specifically the SPY-1F radar, a smaller cousin of the SPY-1D used on U.S. Arleigh Burke destroyers. The Nansen class carries 32 evolved Sea Sparrow missiles in a vertical launch system for point and medium-range air defense, 8 naval strike missiles for anti-ship warfare, a 76mm OTO Malera gun, and torpedoes. The key feature, however, is its anti-submarine suite: a hull-mounted sonar, a towed array sonar, and a helicopter. Originally the NH-90, now being replaced by the MH-60R Seahawk. This makes the Nansen an integrated ASW platform capable of detecting, tracking, and killing submarines in cooperation with NATO patrol aircraft. For Norway, with its focus on the Greenland-Iceland-UK gap and the Barents, the Nansen class is a natural fit. The Iver Huitfeldt class, by contrast, tells a different story. In the early 2000s, Denmark retired its Cold War submarine fleet and shifted strategy. Rather than focus on ASW, Denmark sought ships that could deliver air defense and command functions within NATO task forces. The Danes also faced budget constraints, but had a strong domestic shipbuilding industry. The solution was to leverage the hull of the multi-role Absalon-class support ship and build a frigate with advanced air defense capability at low cost. The result was the Iver Huitfeldt class, 3 ships commissioned between 2011 and 2014, each displacing about 6,600 tons. Unlike the Nansen, the Huitfeldt does not use Aegis, but instead employs the European SMART-L long-range radar paired with the APAR phased array radar. Its vertical launch system is far more generous: 32 to 48 Mark 41 cells, capable of firing SM-2 missiles for long-range area defense, as well as ESSM for medium range. It also mounts Harpoon anti-ship missiles, a 127mm or 76mm gun, and CIWS for point defense. The class carries a helicopter, but lacks the comprehensive sonar suite of the Nansen. The design emphasis is clear. The Huitfeldt is not a submarine hunter, but a floating anti-air battery, capable of protecting task forces or convoys from saturation air and missile attacks. The difference in philosophy also shows in cost. The Nansen-class cost around $500 million per unit, reflecting the expense of the Aegis system and specialized ASW equipment. The Iver Huitfeldt-class, by contrast, was built for around $325 million per ship, remarkably cheap for such a large frigate. Denmark achieved this by using commercial standards for parts of the hull and reusing systems from decommissioned ships. The class was such a success that its design became the basis for Britain's Type 31 frigates. Thus, the Huitfeldt-class is not only a national asset, but also an export model for European naval industry. When comparing raw capability, the distinction is sharp. The Nansen excels in anti-submarine warfare. Its sonar suite and helicopter integration make it a true undersea hunter, something Denmark cannot match. In an environment like the Barents Sea, where Russian nuclear submarines patrol, the Nansen's role is irreplaceable. However, its air defense is limited to the ESSM, which is effective for local defense but insufficient against long-range threats or saturation missile attacks. The Huitfeldt, in contrast, offers powerful air defense capability. With SM-2 missiles guided by APAR, it can cover a wide area, protect convoys, and serve as a flagship in NATO operations. Yet its anti-submarine capability is modest. It carries a helicopter, but lacks the sonar arrays that make the Nansen a true sub-hunter. In a contest of specialization, the Nansen dominates below the surface, while the Huitfeldt dominates the air above it. Strategically, this division of labor makes sense. Norway, sitting next to the Russian bastion, must be able to detect and neutralize submarines before they threaten transatlantic shipping or launch cruise missiles. Denmark, guarding the entrance to the Baltic and supporting NATO in the North Atlantic, must provide area air defense for task forces that might otherwise rely only on American destroyers. Together, the two classes create complementary strengths. One is the sword against submarines. The other is the shield against aircraft and missiles. From a NATO perspective, both are valuable. The Nansen's integration with the Aegis network allows it to share data with US and Spanish ships, enhancing collective ASW and air defense. The Huitfeldt's cost-effectiveness and export potential demonstrate how smaller allies can punch above their weight in naval procurement. Each reflects its nation's geography, economy, and doctrine. Neither ship is better in absolute terms. Each is superior in the role for which it was designed. So which is the strongest frigate in Northern Europe? The answer depends on the mission. In a submarine hunt, the Nansen would be indispensable. In defending a task force against missile attack, the Huitfeldt would be the preferred choice. The real lesson is that Northern Europe does not try to duplicate capabilities across small navies, but instead divides roles strategically. Norway provides undersea warfare expertise. Denmark delivers air defense firepower. Together, they form a balanced contribution to NATO's maritime posture. Looking forward, the landscape will become even more interesting. Finland's Pohjanmaa-class, scheduled for the late 2020s, will blur the line between corvette and frigate with robust ASW and air defense capabilities. Sweden may eventually be compelled to field larger ships than its current Visby-class corvettes. As Russia continues to modernize its northern fleet and deploy new submarines and missiles, the need for both ASW Hunters and AAW Guardians will only grow. In conclusion, the Fridtjof Nansen-class and the Iver Huitfeldt-class represent two sides of the same strategic coin. One hunts silently beneath the waves, the other projects a defensive shield into the skies. Neither can do the other's job well, but together they embody the cooperative defense posture of the Nordic region. The question is not which is stronger, but how the two can be combined most effectively in NATO operations. In that sense, the real strength of Northern Europe's frigates lies not in any single ship, but in the synergy between them.